Last night, Dodgers, Mets. Listen, every game in the playoffs is critical. So when I say it's a critical game 3, I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Every game is critical in the postseason, and really, I think the question is just going to be, are you finding a way to, I guess, steal home field back because the Dodgers had lost game 3 or game 2 from Dodger Stadium, and we got that answer pretty early on in that game. Well, not necessarily pretty early on, but they dominated yesterday. But the way they dominated, maybe a little bit different than you thought they would. I'm going to have this just highlight playing because Walker Buehler yesterday, if you guys remember when I did the show yesterday, I said that there were a lot of articles on the LA Times, and I felt like a lot of the things I was reading was a lot of confidence for some reason with Walker Buehler on the mound, and I couldn't really understand it. I think I talked about my example that when the Padres in the playoffs against Walker Buehler, it was Michael King versus Walker Buehler. It was game 3, kind of a you can call it a similar situation, but it was game 3. I know it was different in the sense that that game was at San Diego. Dodgers were now on the road in New York. But anyways, long story short, I didn't really see the same confidence. I understand the man had a ton of experience. I understand what he was able to do in some big moments in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, what does your stuff look like? And, Walker Buehler, I did not feel like was giving too much confidence in the fact that, hey, this guy, he's going to give up. The question is how many runs he's going to give up, not is he going to give up any runs. Walker Buehler yesterday against the Dodgers. This was the game right here. And you guys are watching the highlight. This is the game. Bases are loaded with Francisco Lindor. By the way, there was one out, and he got the number 9 batter to strike out as well. So he struck out 2 in a row in that second inning with the bases loaded. But Lindor up on a 3-2 count throws a knuckle curve to Francisco Lindor. And I was reading a lot of his comments post-game and reading a lot of basically kind of his strategy going into that. Most of the time for a player like Walker Buehler has depended so much on his fastball. He talked about how just kind of this new world that he's in where he now has to depend on a lot of off-speed stuff, a lot of breaking balls, a lot of location. I mean, Walker Buehler is becoming a different pitcher in front of our eyes, not because he wants to, because he really has no choice after those 2 Tommy Johns. And I know there's probably, however, I was reading a lot of the comments yesterday, and, I think some Dodger fans felt a certain way about having Walker Buehler take game 3. Walker Buehler was getting the ball in game 3 as a necessity, not necessarily a luxury. And that's just the situation that the Dodgers are in. But here's what Walker Buehler did yesterday on the road in New York in a critical game 3. Pitched 4 innings for the Dodgers, gave up 3 hits, did have 3 base on balls, which you never want to have. 0 earned runs. And I think for me, the biggest stat of anything that Walker Buehler did yesterday, he had 6 Ks. So Walker Buehler in a critical game where, you're going to have, however the Dodgers set up their rotation. I know Yamamoto's going tonight. Flaherty obviously is going to get another start as well. To have the starter that you think, if you're the opposing team, all right, we got to get this game against Walker Buehler, because I don't know, Yamamoto can go 6 or 7 innings of scoreless ball. Jack Flaherty can go 6 or 7 innings with a scoreless ball. The bullpen for the Los Angeles Dodgers has been incredible. I don't need to tell anybody how incredible the Dodgers bullpen has been, especially their top guys. You have to feel like if you're the opposing team, you have to get that W against Walker Buehler. They couldn't. He pitched 4 innings. I think he ended up pitching 90. I think he threw 90 pitches total. But by the time that inning ended and he closed out 4, he looked great. He looked incredible. He looked confident. His pitches had a ton of movement. And I just say this because I was one of the first ones yesterday to grab this beautiful microphone and tell listeners of this show, I don't know how you can have confidence with Walker Buehler having the ball on the mound. And every single start that he's had, now he's only had 2 starts in the postseason, but he pitched a very critical game 3 in San Diego. It said he gave up 6 earned runs, but really it was just a poor defensive inning for the Dodgers. Miguel Rojas had a questionable decision. You remember Freddie Freeman throwing the ball and it hits Machado in the helmet, and that ricochets off. It wasn't like he got pounded. Now, Peralta hit one down the line. Tatis hit a 2-run homer off of him. But what Walker Buehler's been able to do in the playoffs is survive. Not necessarily thrive. I mean, yesterday you can use that term thrive, but there were certainly some times where there was traffic on the bases and you just felt like, okay, at some point, yeah, Walker Buehler is going to give up some runs. He didn't. And in the biggest moment of the game, yesterday's game, don't look past that second inning bases loaded Lindor at the plate. That was the ball game for the Los Angeles Dodgers, because even if it's just a base hit, even if he walks in a run, all right, what does that do to the psyche of Walker Buehler? Okay, what does that do to Dave Roberts? How quick is he to say, I got to go to my bullpen? He didn't have to do that. And he got to save his bullpen, and he got to save a lot of his top relievers and his top guys. And I know, a few of them were in there yesterday. Kopech was in there. Trinan was in there. But he got through 4 innings. He got 4 innings out of Walker Buehler and the Dodgers with another shutout. I mean, incredible here. The Dodgers now, I want to say 3 of the last 4 games, they haven't given up a run. 3 of the last 4 games, the Dodgers haven't given up a run. I was surprised to see it. I really was. I thought I'm going to give Walker Buehler a ton of credit, because I did not think, if you'd have told me, and I think this was, and I still believe what I said yesterday, that if you'd have told me a scenario, he was going to go 4 innings and not give up any runs, or he was going to go 3 innings and give up 3 runs, I would think it's more likely he's going to go 3 innings and give up 3 runs. He didn't do that yesterday. He was able to take a lot of that stuff that he's learned in the past, experience, high leverage situations. That part of him, it's in him. That's in his DNA. He likes the big moments. But when you have 2 Tommy Johns, you also are questioning yourself. Do I question my stuff? Do I feel like, guys are going to be on top of, are they a step ahead of me? And if you don't have that mental piece as a pitcher, then really what do you have when you go up to the mound? And Walker Buehler was phenomenal yesterday. He really, really was incredibly impressive in a key game, in a big-time game. All right, let me look at some of your comments here. Dodgers have pitched 9 consecutive scoreless innings. 9 consecutive scoreless innings. Will Smith has called 4 shutouts this postseason. Let me get a couple more here. I want to find stuff specifically on Buehler, because I got to imagine there's a lot of Dodger fans out there that maybe this is not what they were seeing, but or they didn't expect, but got to give that man credit. Walker, a pro. One of the things I'll say about Walker Buehler as well, and I think you guys will kind of know where I'm coming from on this. If you think about his situation, think about how much success he's had already in baseball. And he is, I want to look at his age real quick. I think 26 maybe. Oh, no, that's right. He's a lot older. Walker Buehler's 30 years old. Why was I thinking so much younger? Walker Buehler's 30 years old. But the one thing Walker Buehler has not had yet is that big contract. Walker Buehler, I know the guy's making good money, don't get me wrong. But what Walker Buehler, I think in his career, he's made 30-ish, somewhere around there. But Walker Buehler, that's a player that a couple years ago, before all these surgeries, if I told you, hey, this guy's about to sign a $150 million deal, you'd be like, yeah, that's what, good pitchers get a lot of money. Especially a guy with that much experience, especially a guy that likes pitching in high leverage situations. I mean, hell, look at Max Scherzer and Verlander. Guys like that are still getting these big checks, even as they're approaching age 40. Walker Buehler's situation was very odd. Walker Buehler's situation was he had all this success, and then all of a sudden you had all these injuries and the 2 Tommy Johns, and then he's going to become a free agent this year. So these moments for him in the playoffs are also helping him potentially land himself a contract. And, you feel for a guy like that that's had as much success as he had, but the timing was just bad. And then he's had all the surgeries that he's had. Will he still be able to get a good amount of money from some team and some type of contract, even if it's just for a few years or whatever the case is. I think he's proving in the playoffs that, no, I still got stuff. You could still rely on me, and I'm doing it in the biggest situations. And maybe I'm going a little too far on this, but I do think that there was something about Game 3 against the Padres. You guys remember when he gives up those runs and he comes back into the dugout and he's, throwing water bottles and whatever, not water bottles, the water cooler, whatever the hell he was throwing. He was ticked off in the dugout. But then he got to go back out there because the score was 6-5. As in, his night wasn't done giving up 6 runs. Teoscar hits that grand slam. Then there was a key moment in the game as well where Tatis was coming up, and instead of going to the bullpen, Dave Roberts walks out on the mound, and basically looks at Walker Buehler, looks at Will Smith, and is like, you guys figure it out. You're not going anywhere. And he goes back to the dugout. Those are important moments. And I know you might not be thinking about that yesterday. I know you might not be thinking about even this morning, thinking of Walker Buehler. But I actually really think small moments like that can have an incredible impact on an athlete or a player or whatever the case is. When your manager throws you back in and you deliver, when he has that moment against Tatis, this is a righty-on-righty matchup. This is Tatis just a couple innings before. It might have even been the next at-bat, had hit that 2-run homer off of Walker Buehler, and he decides, no, I'm going to keep you in this game. Little things like that, I think, have impact, and Walker Buehler obviously delivering right now for the Dodgers.